All right, thank you guys for coming out. Tonight we'll be continuing our coverage of the Dutch Leningrad, the Leningrad Dutch, and we'll be looking at tonight the move 7, c6. So we'll get back to the position we were at last week. We're getting right to it tonight. And again, there's many ways that we can reach this position. White has a lot of different move orders, but we're looking at lines with g6. And after some fairly standard moves, we're going to reach this position again. And last week we were talking about the move knight to c6 with the idea of playing e5. And tonight we're going to look at the move c6, and then next time we'll look at the move queen to e8, again with the main idea for black being to play e5. So tonight we're going to go ahead and have a look at this move. It's a very useful move, the move c6. For one, it keeps this knight out. It kind of blunts this bishop a little bit. So it is going to lead to more positional type structures than what we've seen last week. So you'll notice I picked 2 games, and it's some rather positional players have played this way. So we're going to look at a Karpov game and a Kamsky game, 2 players renowned for their positional understanding. And I do hope we have time to get to both of these games. We'll see. The main move here for white is d5. We might come back and look at a Karpov game where Karpov was white and played b3 and won a brilliant game. But tonight we're going to look at the move d5. And the basic plan, the idea behind d5, is after we play e5, which is what we want to do, so we should do it, we can take en passant, and after you take back, we have this weakness here on d6. So if this is the first time you've seen this position, it is kind of tempting to just, this is right out, isn't it? Well, and I just got this weakness for no reason. Why would you do this? It looks pretty easy for me. I can move my queen. I can get my rook involved. I can pile up, and shouldn't I just be able to go win this? This knight also has a pretty good future. But black, as we'll see, actually has some very interesting dynamic resources, and they actually will lead to very positional games. So this actually is the main starting position. You'll notice the most important thing immediately is we attacked your c-pawn. And there's 2 main ways to defend, so we'll have a look at both of them. One of them is b3. That's probably the most popular at the highest level, although the most popular in general is queen to d3. So it is always interesting when you see sort of an opening in a database and it's, well, all the top guys are playing b3, but everybody else is playing queen to d3. And one reason that this might be bad is, well, perhaps in the future, knight to c5 is going to come with tempo. But white is arguing, I'm going to attack your d-pawn, and I'm just going to go win it. That makes a lot of sense. So we'll see what happens. So after this, knight to a6 is indeed the main move. And we'll look at 2 possibilities. Knight to g5 is the most common, and this is very typical. White wants to go and win the bishop pair. If bishop to f4, which looks very straightforward, okay, I'm just going to go get that pawn. I mean, did black just blunder already? Well, no, we have this move. And it's a temporary pawn sacrifice. So we're temporarily giving up this e-pawn, and we'll take back, you'll take with the queen. And what can happen in this line is black can actually gain a lot of activity. And the main line is pretty funny. We attack the queen, and when she runs away, just attack her again. When she moves, attack her again. And black gets a lot of activity. So this is a very interesting line, and black should have a lot of play. But we will spend our time focusing on the main move in this position. So white just played queen to d3. Now knight to g5. Okay, you just want to go take my bishop, which is fair enough. Queen e7. And black will often bring his pieces to the center. The plan is to put the knight on c5. We're getting all of our stuff into the game. Okay, so they give us a little poke. All right, I attack d6, protect it. and white protects it. And very often, black is going to have to resort to tactical means to defend his d-pawn. He is relying on some very interesting options that he has available to him just to make sure that he doesn't lose a pawn. I guess we'll get the audience involved because this actually is a great sized crowd for a Monday night. This is awesome. If you guys were black, what would you do here? I am attacking your d-pawn 3 times, defending it twice. Easy math. Perhaps knight g5? Knight h5. Yes, and this is definitely one of the moves. And so part of the idea is you've created this tactical liability. When the knight goes to g5 in these lines, often it's a very good piece because it might take your bishop. But also it can be a liability because now if, for example, you take here, you would be losing after I take your knight. So this is a very possible line. I think knight to g4 is actually more popular, but the way this line runs is now they should take our bishop, and okay, they attack our rook and we protect it. More popular and perhaps more interesting is knight to g4, but the same idea. Yeah, now if you take here again, I take your knight. So there's been some pretty crafty stuff that white players have come up with. So there's actually a ton of lines here, but we'll just look at the most interesting. Now you've created this little tactic. Now how do you like white's next move? So obviously not the only move. More popular is actually to take the bishop. But knight d5, what's that all about? Well, the first thing is, why can't I take it? Yeah, knight e6, and I'm worse. So if I take here, hopefully we see the main idea. Queen and king on the same diagonal, big threats. And we played f5 on move 1, so you should never be surprised that stuff happens on this diagonal. You did that for move 1. So a very interesting idea, knight to d5. So black should just move your queen, and white can consider playing, for example, queen to a3, which defends this pawn, attacks here. If it'll let me draw some arrows. We got some pressure on the a pawn, so if the knight ever moves, maybe we can take it. So black would just be best advised to block, and you get a very interesting and complex position. So this is a very typical position for this, type of opening. And it's indeed, there's some very interesting tactics that can happen right out of the opening. But we'll go back to this. Lost RAM. So yeah, this is actually a very interesting move, the queen to d3 move. But we're going to spend most of our time looking at the main move at the top level, b3. Now the main move here is knight to a6, so we'll come back to it. But now that you've weakened this diagonal, this almost looks like a big blunder. What's wrong with knight to e4? Uh-oh, has white just blundered? This looks great for black. And this line actually has a dubious reputation, but it's worth noting that Nakamura has done it twice. So, I mean, it must be playable if he's going to do it more than once. But it appears like maybe white's in trouble. What does white do? Okay. I take your knight. Now you have to be very careful as black. You can take my knight and you can take my rook. But choose wisely, because one of them's okay and one of them loses. So I'll give you guys the choice. They've just taken your knight. What are you going to do? Take the knight back? Yeah. All right. You weren't tempted to win a rook? That's worth 5 points.
Yeah, but knight's cooler.
Knight's cooler. Right. Okay. Yeah, so if you take the rook, you're actually in pretty bad shape here. And there's a very, very long forced line that might occur. Well, just taking here is pretty strong for white. I'm on your b pawn, so let's suppose that you protect it.
Knight d6 is the best?
Is what? The best. Knight takes d6? Yeah, that's the best move in this position. So
That's how Nakamura's game went?
no, he's never taken the rook because he's smarter than that. Yeah. And if he plays this, that means he's looked at it, and it is sort of a risky variation, so you wouldn't play it unless you've had a pretty good look at it. But let's pretend we find ourselves in this position. So our b pawn is attacked. So most people go here. And now a funny thing. So there's not a whole lot of games in this position because it's bad. So most people don't play this. The human move in this position is to play bishop to h6. So this is going to be good for white because now this is attacked, my rook's attacked. And we trade. This is very pleasant for white because you got to trade the dark squared bishop, and my kingside is a mess. So what's going on over there? And it's true that this is very good. Ugh. However, the computer is like, yeah, I don't want to do any of that. I'm just going to put my stuff here and just say I have a great position. So we'll give a very, very long computer line for some reason. It wants to go here. All right, so I just protect my stuff. All right, we have to go back. Now white gets to play a move that white wants to play. And really, I'm showing this line because I kind of want to show this move an idea that white has in these types of positions. White, in all of these positions, wants to play the move e4. One reason is, well, now this won't be a weakness or a target at any point, but really we want to get this e4 square for our pieces. Sometimes our knights want to go to the e4 square. We want to break this up a little bit. So this is a good move that white always wants to try to play in this type of structure. And if you have to take here, things are grim, but okay, we'll just show this very long computer line, and white is a lot better. Okay, so that's why people don't take the rook. But instead, if we go back to this position, okay, not tempted by that little trap, we go here. And this leads to a very interesting position. The knight is attacked, so knight d4. Wow, what is that? What's that noise? Is someone on the roof? It's the woozle, right. Yeah, you guys have seen it. These are the kids that have seen the woozle, so the good thing we got the doors shut. Bishop f7. And in these lines, especially in the Dutch, the light squared bishops often love to go to f7. That's a good square for them. When you got your pawn here, you got your nice safe little house. When you push it, you want to fix it out. You take the bricks out of your house, you patch it back up. In a lot of these lines in the Dutch, in general, you'd like to have this guy here because he protects your kingside a lot and defends all the light squares that have been weakened. Okay, so there was some tricks there on that diagonal. And after d5, you get a position like this that is, it's very interesting. And so some very interesting games have been played from this position. But we'll go back and we'll look at sort of the main line here. Okay, after b3, a less risky move is knight to a6. And a lot of moves can be played. For example, if bishop to f4 seems to make a lot of sense. I'm attacking your pawn. Again, we have a knight move, knight to h5. And the idea is if here, you blunder this guy. So, okay, normally they go here or go here. And okay, so they can do this, and the queen has to move, and then the knight actually can be useful here if I get to play a move like f4 and start an attack. So not very popular. Most people decide to put their bishop on this diagonal. This way we can contest for the dark squares. Queen e7, knight g5. And here I want to stop and sort of show a game. And it's going to be the Gata Kamsky game. Now, most people in this position, like almost everybody, has played rook a to d8, which obviously lets me take the bishop. So that's what most people do. And you can definitely play this way and you get a position like this. But it's funny, too, in the press conference for this game, and this is the game Gelfand Kamsky 2012, he's like, I don't get it. Why do people always give away their bishop? That's silly. So in this game, he didn't. He's like, all right, I'll keep my bishop. And okay, the game makes a pretty strong case for keeping your bishop alive. Okay, so white played d2. he still has this plan. We're going to gang up on your d pawn. Black played h6. And you maybe don't have to play this right away. You could have considered just bringing your piece to the middle to defend your stuff, because occasionally there's some tactical liabilities that go on with this knight. Because again, whenever the knight's on g5, there might be some tactics for us. But he decides to push it back. And now a funny move. All right, that's where my bishop wanted to be. So he puts the bishop back on e6. Now that you're not attacking it. And if you play a move like knight to f4, I have bishop f7. Okay, so you go after my pawn. I protect it. Bishop a3. And around here, white maybe doesn't come up with any real solid plan. This is not necessarily a good move. The bishop might be better on b2. Because now black has knight to c5. And in these types of positions, this structure just is always good for black. Black really wants this structure where you give away your dark square bishop. Even though these are doubled pawns, this usually tends to favor black. So in almost all these positions, if we reach this structure, you stealing hot sauce?
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah. This is a structure that black wants to achieve. Okay, so we go back. So he didn't take. He played instead f4. Wow, what a move. f4. And he's thinking, well, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to play e4. It'll let me draw an arrow. Well, and I like what Gata did in this position too. It's very tempting. I'm like, oh, how can we take advantage of this, backwards stuff here? What can we do? He just took it cool, and he just improved all of his pieces. So he's like, all right, white, you can do whatever. I'm just going to move over. I'm going to play rook e8. All right, I play rook e8. Okay, so he played king to h1. There was some stuff going on with queen to b6. So queen b6 anyway, which defends the knight. So if, as one of our basic plans in this kind of pawn structure, you got a backwards pawn, is you want to push it, you want to play d5. So if I ever get to play d5, my knight is protected. Queen c7. d5. And this requires a lot of calculation, because now things are about to get very tactical. And that can happen. So in these lines, they start out very positional, but there's lots and lots of tactics that have to be calculated. What's going on up there? The woozle, I know. You can hear it tonight. It's out. It's not thunder, is it? What's going on? What's going on? So let's check this out. All right, I take. And it may at first appear like you're going to win a pawn, because now I take. All right, you take back. And I take here. Queen c7. And now white played rook d2, which is a bit of a mistake. And now some fantastic stuff is going to happen. Knight e3 has a problem that I defended my queen. So I take. What was it? I think you said it. What'd you say?
No,
Oh. You didn't say anything? Oh. Bishop c3. And this is a very interesting move, because perhaps it looks like it's a blunder by black, but it's actually the strongest move. Because can't I now... Yeah, okay. So, yeah, because rook takes d5, right? Not any other way. So if the bishop takes, we get a check in. We get to take back with check. And the funniest line, I think, is here. Now what's going on? And this is complicated, and you can expect to get this with either side. So it's another reason you might want to consider this as a weapon as black, is because you get really complicated positions where somebody might win, And it's very easy to, miscalculate some of these tactics. But here we have bishop e5, bishop e5. So that was the idea. And still, this is not a very good move because I can take and I can take on e2, which is good for black. So it gets complicated, even though it starts out, seems like pretty simple. It's very, very complicated. Okay. So he played knight to d3, which gives up an exchange, but still might be the best because white is actually in bad shape here. And you might think I'm going to take your rook. b6. You go back. Okay, I'll take it. And now, a very classical type of move. I'm ahead in material. Let's trade. So he went back, and he traded. All right, I'm still up material. Let's trade some more. Okay, and here white said no, but you have to play rook a1, which you didn't really want to play. And now after here, you might think, okay, I should have gone in with the rook, but again, another little tactic was played. So very simple looking position, but it's actually, there's lots of tactics in these variations. So do you guys see what black should play here? Yeah. So knight takes. And he didn't take. Because if here, as was mentioned, check. And we get the bishop. And that's pretty bad. So here he didn't even take. So another nice little tactic. And the game sort of finished up without any more fight. So here the game ended. And so it's a very strong, positional game mixed in with lots of tactics, which is why this variation is so popular at all levels.
That's Gelfand.
That's, Gelfand Kamsky. Okay. But I did want to go, we're going to go all the way back. Let's just go all the way back. I do want to go over one other game because all week I've just been impressed by this game. So it's been fantastic. So it just has to be shown, even though white won, and you clicked on this because you want to see a black repertoire. Is it what? No, this is going to be a Karpov game versus Yusupov. Okay. What's that? What game is that? It's a game? Okay. We can look at it after this one. Maybe we can find it. Okay, and in this position, d5, the main move. But there's lots of other approaches. White can instead play a variety of other moves. Let's just look at Karpov's choice. Move b3. The idea is to put the bishop on a3, where sometimes you can't play this move because there's a pin. So if you have a pawn on e5, I can take it, and there might be a pin here. So queen c7. In a recent game, this is more popular. I guess I don't have it in there, but there was a game that Caruana won as black in that line. Okay, queen c7.
Caruana, did he play the Dutch?
Yeah, so I think this is actually the game. This is Karyakin Caruana from 2015.
Dutch is very popular.
Yeah, I mean it is sort of coming back. And in this position, we'll just show a little bit. Black got the move e5 in, and now he has a very comfortable position. So you can see this is an excellent way to play. So perhaps in this position, black should consider to play here. Instead, a5, just a so-so move. And I'm not ready to play d5. Because whenever white plays d5, you get to put your knight on c5. So it's interesting. He's just very positional. I'm not going to allow that. Okay, here comes your knight. And we get all our stuff in. Knight b4. So now that you've shielded this diagonal, perhaps you are ready to play e5. Or are you? Because after he went back, black played e5. And this looks very successful. Okay, it looks like the opening went, pretty decent for black. I got to play e5. But if I'm allowed to say crazy things on the internet, I would like to say a very extreme claim. It might be, but I should make it more, emphatic. Definitely, black is losing. So that's the idea. Excellent. So yeah, he can take right away, but he threw this move in first, a3. But yes, then your idea. Takes. And so somebody's already spotted it, but we'll give you guys at home. So you do want to pause at home. I don't want to completely spoil it for you guys. Now the brilliancy begins. And what I do admire about this game is very often when there's these wild, crazy, complicated, insane tactical positions, they look great, and then you put it on an engine, and the engine laughs, and it's like, ha, 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 that looks pretty great, but yeah, here, and I defend. But with this, he actually played every engine move from here on out. So he just played great, which is remarkable. And this was, didn't really have any good computers at the time. So he probably wasn't cheating. But, so somebody has already spotted the right move here. And if you have, how deep can you actually calculate in this position? What's your first move? Knight takes e5. Blundering a knight. I take it. What? You have some trick? Knight d5 is your trick. Knight e4. I can probably play just queen e6, but yeah, I mean, but maybe I can play knight e4, but yeah. So this is the idea. Knight b5.
That's why e3 is necessary.
So knight b5 lining up. Okay, so I take, yeah. Skip 2 moves, but okay. All right. So I took your knight, I defended, and here it's very easy to make a mistake. So let's again see if we can play the best move. So we're counting on somebody to say the obvious move that's actually not very good. Nobody say it? Yeah. H3, exclam. No. Well, tempting, because we have a pin here, is to play b4. But that's actually not a very good move. It's everybody shakes their head. Very strong audience tonight. Because takes. We can toss this move in. It's useful. And if you go anywhere, we can take here. And in a position like this, material is equal. But black has a lot of activity. So this actually looks pretty good for black. My rook's active, my bishops are active, my knight's great. So this would be quite good for black. Okay, so not b4. Bishop takes e5, yes. Okay, so I have to, kind of protect my knight a little bit. Okay. Bishop d4, is that your move?
No.
Knight d4?
No, bishop d4, then knight f d4.
Queen d4 is interesting. So you're on this guy again. I guess I defend him. It's annoying. You have better here. I think yeah, this side of the room might have it.
Against bishop.
Bishop f6, yes. Bishop f6. Oh, bishop f6. Removing a defender of d5. A hard move to spot. You trade a bishop for a knight. Those kind of moves sometimes are pretty tough. Queen d5. And now you have a problem because while you're in check, I'm attacking your knight. And if your knight moves, which it did, take the bishop. But hold on. Isn't your queen trapped? What's this? Oh, gosh. Oh, Karpov blew it. Come on. I was booting. Was it? Yeah. Rook c6. Excellent move. Cutting the connection of the queen and knight. Excellent. So yes, if you take here, which was not played, we take here, check. King moves somewhere. And on either king move, 95 is rather strong. And I'm just threatening to go here. If you go here, I can just take this. And white is doing quite well. Okay, in the game they traded queens. Well, let me just be tricky one more time. Ha ha. Well, this isn't anything special either. We take. You go here, here. Also good for white. Which explains why in the game, after rook c6, they trade the queens.
But queen c6 seems to be a bit better, the fine position.
In which position? This.
Queen takes c6 here.
Yeah, trying to remember. The computer really liked this. Let's see why this. We can. What's going on here? Okay, so this is the line. Did you have anything in particular here? This might be, yeah, this is also an interesting way to play because you have like knight c5 and maybe you can get the pawn back.
Yeah.
And,
I don't feel like it's so overwhelming.
mm-hmm.
Pawn?
Yeah, and I assume after this, there was always some funny stuff. There was like, here, there's also rook d5. It's good for white, but yeah, this is also an interesting way to try to hold it together as black. Opposite colored bishops. Yeah, this is a very interesting approach for sure. What's up? It's Artur Yusupov. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the game though, here, which I think the computer said was objectively the best, but okay, that doesn't necessarily mean against a human that's the way you should play. The other ways were also equally interesting. And you have to be really careful with white now. After the knight moved, be careful. Black has a sneaky threat. So after it's all been said and done, well, first we're on here, so let's just play b4. And in this position, bishop d8 is interesting. It doesn't quite work yet, though. So right, so here let's waste a move for a second. The problem with doing this immediately is rook e6. And if king f7, I go here, I get my stuff back, and this is weak, and now I'm just winning. So that is sneaky. But if, for example, I played first rook e8, then I would be threatening to win your rook. So white is up 2 pawns, but black has some activity, and this rook is a little suspect. So I think finding the best move here, which again you have to do if you want any advantage at all, is very tough. So the threat is rook e8, bishop d8.
So why don't we move her up to the e5 right away?
Well, it's white to move. So it's white to move, anticipating what's happening. You know, if it's our move, we play rook e8. If it's black to move, we play rook e8. But it's white to move. So you see this is the threat. Right here, rook e6. Well, now I have king f7, right? Because you don't have this trick. Right, I haven't played bishop d8 yet, so I still control the e5 square. You can do better. Yeah, h4 is interesting. But here, rook e8. So you have knight g5. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to be tricky now. Okay, what if I attack you this way? What if I attack you that way? In this position.
Oh, why don't we just move over to? Oh, but the rook is two. Why don't we just move over to research right now?
In which position?
No, you move there.
I move there? Okay, so if rook e6, you don't mind this pawn at all? Yeah, you don't mind this at all? You're blind? H4 is interesting, but he played an even better move. And it has the same idea of using the knight to control the e6 square. Well, knight g5 immediately is a blunder. He played the move e3. Okay, I'm going to use this square. I'm going to go to the center. And he went here. Now if rook to e8, let me go here. This is his idea. So now if you go here, I can escape. And if you take this to try to win a pawn, if you take, then you're undefending this guy. So
you may lose a pawn, but you got past.
So e3, very strong move. Black tried king f7. I still have bishop d8 ideas. And now the move that you said earlier was played, h4. So very similar idea. And the rook went to b8. If we attack the rook, 95. So you have to be careful. So okay, he decided to defend the pawn this way. Seems a bit passive. Rook c1. And white's just better. Yeah, and it's a very Karpovian position. So he, you know, against some people you have lots of chances to draw, but not Karpov. All right, knight d4. All right, he went back. So what are you doing, you know? What are you doing? Okay, so this shows that black has nothing to do. Simplify. Okay, very fair. 96. Maybe I will go to g5 after all. Knight g5. So here he took. And this is just great for white. So, okay, he never really let anything go from here. And he's Karpov. So I think we've covered the opening well enough. Now we'll save this for endgame exclam, this actual technique. But here black resigned. So a very excellent display. And if we can just go back to the start of this tactical sequence here. So right away, okay, it looks fantastic for black. I got to play e5. What? Did you see knight to b5? This is a very tricky idea. And see how much he had to actually see to play this. Okay, so he takes in here. Okay, and you have to see that in this variation, after you take and check and win the bishop, you have to see the queen's not getting trapped. So you have to see to here. And you have to see at least this far if you're going to play it. And you have to properly assess that you're better here. Very tricky. So, I mean, a lot of people say Karpov was just this strategical positional guy, but he has a lot of tactical masterpieces. And I didn't even know about this one until earlier today. So I guess, I mean, maybe I saw it early this week, but since I've seen it, it's just a fantastic game, so I'm happy I got to share that with you. So that'll do it for today. We have one more Leningrad coming up this next week. So if you liked it, hit like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.